I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. But a square peg in a round hole just never seems to fit. And you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Welcome, everyone, to Making Chicken Salad, the Wrestle Radio Australia podcast, where we talk about all things going on in the world of wrestling. I am the Elplation sensation of podcasting, Lachlan Albert, and I'm joined by the man who insists it's not a cult, but you've got to call him father anyway, Todd Eastman. Todd, how you doing, man?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. We've both had a day where we have gotten a chance to sit down and watch a big event that just happened over the past weekend, which is Reawakening 20, the biggest show of the year for EPW, a big 20th anniversary milestone for one of Australia's longest running, most successful wrestling companies. And once again, they put on a stellar show. They've shown that they're world class. And we thought we'd take this opportunity to sit down, talk about it, give a rundown of what happened on the show. So let's not, actually, before we get into any specific matches, overall, what did you think of the show, Todd?
I really liked it. It's a reawakening. It's actually probably one of the first ones I've sat down and watched from start to finish.
Yep.
There have been ones in the past where like, oh, you got to check out this match or that match or this match. I never really sat down and watched the whole thing. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a tight ass and I never got the Vimeos or whatever it was. But this is a really, like, from top to bottom. I think I even put a note. It was a well structured, very well built,
definitely,
card from start to finish.
And speaking of being a tight ass for this show, even if you are a tight ass, you're in luck, because this whole show is free on YouTube. We'll have that link in the description here, so you can go ahead, watch the whole show. 2 hours and 50 minutes of great wrestling coming out of Perth. It's a really awesome show, and I'm really glad that we get to talk about it. So let's jump in. Match number one was an 8-man tag match. It was Chris J. Lazarus with Chris Target, Joel Hagan, and Kaz Jordan on one side, coming up against the team of Bobby Marshall, Bruno Nitro, Dan Moore, and Jesse Lambert on the other side. So a really interesting kind of mesh of teams here. We've got CJL's Cavalcade of Stars, which is, a guy claiming to be bringing in the new guard. And then you've got Bruno Nitro, who, spoiler alert, you recently spoke about in the Wrestle Radio Australia main podcast as someone who's flying under the radar at the moment, but is really good, teaming with 2.5 Wrestlers, who are one of the big face acts in EPW, featuring Jesse Lambert, the Elplation sensation, who I love the goofy gimmick there. This was an interesting match to start the show. It definitely felt like they wanted to get everyone into this show and go, here's what we're doing. There's going to be a little bit of comedy, there's going to be a little bit of character work, and there's going to be a lot of wrestling. You mentioned before, Todd, that you thought the card was well structured, and I often think that having a match with a lot of people in it to fly around and do some crazy stuff is a good way to start the show. What did you think of the 8-man?
Jesse Lambert is he's such an endearing character. You can't not like the kid, like just his facials and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah,
he's one of those like happy to be here guys. Do you know what I mean? Or just like it's an infectious thing,
but not happy to be here as his whole babyface gimmick. Like, I'm gonna win because I'm happy to be here. But he's the L plater. He's still learning. He's completely uncoordinated at times, but he's happy to be here, and he's got real muscle in his corner.
Yeah, exactly. What they did, because they tried to tell a little bit of story with it as well, because of the Bruno Nitro CJL sort of ongoing feud that's going on between those two guys, or that group and Bruno.
So CJL is trying to recruit Bruno to his cavalcade of stars. And 2.5 Wrestlers are, 2 established guys who are helping Jesse Lambert be a better wrestler.
Yes. It was good. It was what it needed to be for the open of the show, if that makes sense. I think Nitro is going to be good really soon because he's got that connection with the crowd. He's quick. He's very crisp with a lot of stuff he does. But yeah, it was a really for me it was a good choice as an opening match.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some listener comments which we've just placed throughout here to kind of back onto the matches that they've mentioned. Unfortunately, we're starting with one of the ones that's not so positive. At J. Brone said, I love the show, but there was some downsides. He says, I thought the 8-man tag was a cluster. At one point, CJL psyched the crowd for a springboard dive, except it was onto literally 3 of his own team and 1 of the other guys. There was no rules enforced or DQs. Also, the Bruno and CJL storyline was lost in amongst all of the bodies. Jay Brown said, also, overall, the refs looked weak. They enforced next to nothing in the opening matches, and that's when they needed to be the most authoritative. I think that I agree to an extent, but I also think that if there was that story told of this is reawakening, so the refs are going to back off a bit to see who can shine on the biggest stage, because reawakening is the WrestleMania of EPW, right? It's the big night. And, if it got mentioned, the refs aren't going to be as strict on this one because we want, no questions about who's winning these matches. They're not going to be getting involved and making a mess of things. They're going to let things play out. We've seen that happen on previous shows and it's worked. So I agree with at J Brown here, but I also think that was kind of part of the vibe for me, that this is the show where the big boys come to play. What do you think?
Yeah, no, like I sort of agree, but I 100% see where Jay Brown's coming from about the whole thing, because it is one of my bugbears is not letting a referee have that authority. Like, he has to be that authority figure in a match, because at the end of the day, that's the guy that's calling is the one that's calling the match, if you know what I mean. So if you're constantly breaking the rules and he's not pulling people up on it, then it doesn't mean anything when you break the rules.
I think that, and I'm jumping around a little here, but there was some really great spots with referees, like in the tag match that we'll talk about later, where the ref got to 3 for Casey Johns having someone in the corner, and Casey just came at the ref. I've got 5. I'm allowed to do it to 5. You don't tell me to stop. I thought that was great. Whereas I want to say that it was during the TMDK match as part of the big tournament. I think there was a moment where there was a hold in the corner, the ref got all the way to 5, and then after 5 just started trying to break them up. That feels like the ref not having authority, So I think there was ups and downs in the way that the refs were enforcing the rules there. I don't disagree with Jay Brown. The refs did look a little bit weak, and maybe they should have been more authoritative. But
I will say on another, like a little bit of a tangent, I guess. Eric Mack and Olsen did a great job on commentary through the night.
The commentary was fantastic.
They are a really, really good commentary team. I would say go so far as to say a highly underrated commentary team, because I enjoyed their work. So
it's one of those things where when commentary is really good, it gets to the point that you don't notice how good it is. Because they're just saying things that you expect to hear. They're saying things that make sense and lead you further into what you're watching, rather than making you pay attention to what you're listening to. I think it's really great commentary. And
also for someone like me who not really up a hell of a lot on the storylines, and that they really did lay out a lot of that stuff for us. So during the show, you knew what had happened in the background with Julian Ward coming up to get that title. You knew what was going on with Don Morglioni and Gavin Mcgavin, their history of their matchups together and all that sort of stuff. That stuff is really, I won't say essential, but it is such a great add-on to have when you're watching a match.
Especially when this is a show that's going out free on YouTube, right? Because there's going to be people watching this show that haven't been watching a lot of EPW in the past, and great commentary gives those people the opportunity to feel like they can see what's about to happen because they know information that's been given to them by commentary. right?
Yeah.
So like we'll talk about later, you mentioned it there, there's the ongoing feud between Gavin, Mcgavin and Marcus Pitt that got mentioned on commentary a couple of times leading into those matches. And then I had the thought in the back of my head of, oh, what if those guys win? And then that's going to be that's what good commentary does. That was really excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll move on to the next match, which was Father Jacobs versus Edith Knight. Father Jacobs, of course, being one of those EPW originals, taking on Edith Knight, who's fairly new to the world of wrestling. I want to say this is Edith's second reawakening, though I could be wrong there. What did you think of this showing, Todd?
She's going to be good. She's going to be very good. There are a little bit of patches where you can see that little bit of greenness and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, I guess it's to be expected when she's not a hell of a lot of experience. But yeah, the world at her feet. She's got so much potential, I reckon. The only thing I didn't like about this match, and that's a really picky thing, is Tyler's gear. I'm not a big fan of dudes just wrestling in like street clothes for I know he's like Father Tyler and all that stuff. You can still have gear that depicts that and still be like, but mate, you're going quiet on me. Oh, I like this one. This is good because he's mute, and when he's mute, it means I don't have to listen to him. Look at him panic. This is only good for the YouTube because no one else can. I still can't hear you, mate. No. I'm going to keep this in because, oh dear. Yeah, Edith Knight is. She does have, like, the only reason that I didn't mention her this week on Wrestlers You're Sleeping On is because a lot of people aren't sleeping on her. They know her name. They know that she's out there doing good things. And how are you going there, mate?
I'm going good, Todd.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. So I just had a quick scan on Good Friend Cage Match. It looks like Edith's first ever match was in the second half of 2019. That was her first match in front of people. Her EPW debut was in October 2019. So she hasn't been going at it a long time, and she started right before we hit lockdown. So when there were less shows in front of people, less time to engage with the crowd. So very impressive that she's at the point that she is at with that little amount of experience. I think she's, clearly got a lot of potential in her. I think that, saying that Tyler Jacobs is good is obvious. He's been in EPW for 20 odd years. I think, commentary said he won that invitational tournament in like 2002 or something. So he's been around the block. He knows what he's doing.
Like, the whole comment about the gear is me being picky. It's just something I don't like. Aside from that, there's not too much you could pick out about his performance. It was good.
That's the thing, is if you're at the point where you're saying, I don't like the gear choice, then clearly everything else is going well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exactly right.
We did have a comment from @Krusty1 here who said Edith Knight, bar a few timing mishaps, namely the top rope runner, looked great. A few more years and she'll be dangerously close to leading the charge. And I think that this match was there to show off Edith. And Jacobs won the match, but Edith came out of it looking like a star. And I think that's absolutely perfect. It keeps Father Jacobs as a strong heel who doesn't lose matches. It keeps Edith looking great because the fans loved her. She made Jacobs tap out, even though the ref didn't accept it because a foreign object was used, which I think that's really good storytelling. You've got the bad guy is tapping out to the good guy, but for this reason, it doesn't count. And the reason is the bad guy was going to use a weapon. Good guy used it instead. So their win doesn't count. But then the bad guy gets a cheeky win. I think that's really, really great. Keeps everyone looking.
The only thing that I'll pick about that is that why wasn't that a DQ then?
And I had that thought as well. It's I liked it, but I also think that, yeah, there needs to be more clarity in. And I think that's literally all it would take is for them to say, look, the refs are going to be a bit lenient tonight because it's Reawakening and it's a big night. I think
also,
that would have been a great fix.
You look at stuff like in New Japan with Red Shoes. Sometimes Red Shoes, if you know somebody's cheated, he won't count the 3. He won't count when the guy's pinned him. He's like, you cheated. I'm not counting that pin. So maybe it's a little bit of that. I don't know, but yeah, that's the only thing I can equate it to. Because if I'm
we know Red Shoes, you know.
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
he's an established character, so it's interesting.
But like old wrestling mentality tells me, if you're busted using a foreign object and cheating, because that's basically what she did, that's a disqualification. So that's I completely forgotten about that in my notes as well. But that was the only other thing too, is that maybe if like he'd gone to hit her with something and she grabbed it off, and then the ref like stops her from doing it and then pulls it away, and then she turns into a small package or a roll up or something like that. That's a totally different.
But see, the difference, Todd, is I've seen that a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen bad guy bring something in, good guy takes advantage and starts using it. And then even though we're getting a tap out, the ref says, I'm not counting it because you're using a foreign object.
Yeah, because
right? Like that's new. It's interesting. It keeps my brain turning.
It's new, but it's also new because it's like you're cheating, that you're breaking the rules, that you should be disqualified. Do you know what I mean?
The consequence for breaking the rule is that she doesn't get the win, right?
Well, yeah, but it should be by disqualification. Like if I handed Mitch something and he hit a wrestler with it, and the referee saw him hit the wrestler with it, and then the referee just said, "Oh, I'm not counting the 3 on that." Do you think that would go down like a lead balloon?
Probably. I mean, I think then that's a show that, you know, these 2 competitors did a really good job. You know, Jacobs and Edith made this make sense. The referee in the match made it kind of make sense. I think that, you know, is credit to them. From my perspective, at least.
We'll argue about it forever if we don't.
That's right. We all know that, as usual, Todd's right and I'm wrong, so we'll just move on.
No, I didn't say that, but yes.
Anyway, we'll get on to a match that I really enjoyed, which is a tag team title match between champions the Zencano Experience and the tag team of Cutthroat and Then Some. So those teams are, the champions are Zenith and Delcano, a kind of hippie and a luchador kind of gimmick, doing a lot of high-flying athletic stuff, versus Cutthroat and Then Some, which is Casey Johns and I believe it's James Harkness.
Yes.
And they are just straight up bruisers. They had a little bit of a horror movie entrance going on to buff it up. I thought this was awesome. What do you think, Todd?
I agree. I agree completely. I liked it. Hang on. I'll just vamp for a second because I just need to.
Yeah, I can do that. I think
I'm passing you a note, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, perfect. I already know that. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
The thing that I really liked about shut your face, Todd. The thing that I really liked about this match was that, look, I thought it was maybe a little long, is the only criticism I could have, but everyone came out of it looking really, really strong, right? Mm-hmm. Zenith came out of it having his little, like, the aggression got the better of him and he was about to lose it and cheat, and that made him look really dangerous as a champion. Delcano was constantly doing these athletic moves, constantly high flying, looked amazing. Harkness kicked out of a burning hammer by both of, you know, the challenges.
Yeah.
That's huge. For me, Casey was the star of this. Casey Johns is someone who, look, I've been on the Casey train for a while. Their feud with Edith Knight, when Edith was, you know, really new, was a great feud. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to Casey Johns. And then coming into this tag match, looking like they were born to be a tag specialist, looking absolutely brutal in everything they did. I was massively impressed with this one.
Yeah, Casey has been good for a long time. back when they were in Riot City Wrestling, really good work with Demi Bennett, who is Rhea Ripley now. And that was, God, how long's Demi been in WWE for?
Years now.
So that was. And from her them moving from Adelaide to Perth, you've gone from Riot City Wrestling training to EPW training, just strength on strength. And they are, I had just a couple of notes here. Hate foot tags. Hate them. Like that, it's a tag match. You tag with a hand. I don't like the tag with a foot. For me, that's not a legal tag. I love the wild style of Cutthroat and then some. Great psychology in teasing the tag. The one thing I didn't like, though, it was like an extended fight back from Zenith during the heat. There was like a point where they kept teasing this hot tag, and then Zenith had like a comeback where for a good minute and a half was putting offense on Cutthroat and then some, when the focus wasn't trying to get the tag. It was like he was all good and he was just fighting the both of them off until it cut off again. See, that to me, I'm just like, well, why weren't you trying to get a tag? Then you had a chance to get the tag and you didn't even try.
I disagree. I think that the story that's flowing through the Zencano experience right now is that Zenith is not someone who's going to be able to hold himself to a tag team style. He's someone who has got this burning aggression inside of him that at some point is going to come out, right? And that means that, and again, this is just me with my ideas of what's going to happen in the future, but I think the longer the Zencano experience is a tag team and the longer they're tag team champions, the more we're going to see Zenith in big trouble, fighting back, getting ahead of steam, and not tagging in Delcano when he really should, and that costing them matches. I think that if that's the way that this goes, that's a great little seed for it, because we saw the seed of his aggression in this match. And I noticed it as well, and I thought, he's not tagging him in. It's interesting that he's not tagging him in. I think it's a choice.
Okay. I thought it was maybe a little long on the heat. I think they maybe went a little too extended heat on the can. You could tell because when they eventually got the hot tag, it wasn't the explosion that it could have been when Delcano finally got in. I like the fact that the ref made sure shoulders were down when he was counting. There was one point where the shoulders weren't quite down, so he didn't count. I love that because it brings to me again, referee is doing his job. Like if the shoulders aren't down, just because that's when you're supposed to count, you're not counting it because everyone can see the shoulders aren't down.
That was a moment where I think everyone involved should be complimented. I want to say that it was off a Delcano suplex to Casey, and Casey had kind of one shoulder up, and then the ref didn't count it. And then there was a readjustment from both Delcano and Casey to get the shoulders down. And then the kick out happened. And then commentary, again, putting praise on commentary, sold it as Casey being a ring general, knowing not to land with both of their shoulders on the mat into the bridging pin. But then Delcano putting it back into that pin. I thought it was, for a moment that could have been detrimental, and we could have been going, why was the ref counting shoulders that weren't down, rah, rah, rah. It made everyone involved look professional and like good wrestlers.
I love the big twisting senton that Casey did. For a second, I thought they just screwed up an elbow drop, because the way they jumped off it, I'm like, didn't even put an elbow out. Then I've watched it again because I rewound it back because I'm just anal like that. I need to analyze stuff. When they did it and they turned it, I was like, that was a senton. He wasn't in the right spot, so turned in the midair to hit the senton.
Did the big cannonball senton.
Yeah, that to me is so good. It was a really, really good match. I just think it maybe went a couple of minutes too long. And
I think if you shaved 5 minutes out of the middle of this match, it'd be 5 stars.
Yeah, I think during the heat, if they'd have just maybe condensed the heat a little bit more, then it would have been even better than what it was. And it was a really good match.
Yeah, we had a comment from Marie B here. Sorry, saying Casey Johns was the star of the tag. They looked like they could genuinely hurt you, and everything looked vicious. That one corner line, chef's kiss. Zenith's little heel tendencies came through well. Delcano was made to look like a star. Nice story there. Harkness kicked out of a double burning hammer. Is he literal god? Everyone came out of this looking awesome.
Like I said, I love the match. I love the tag team of Cut Through and then some. I'm a big fan of that tag team. Just because they've got a wild, sort of just aggressive thing about them that a lot of that doesn't look like they're putting it on. A lot of times you'll see teams that come out and you can tell that they're sort of, that's not really what they're like. But those two, that just looks like that's what they're like. It looks like they don't give a shit.
There was a moment there that, and I know we've talked a lot about this match, but I've got to talk about this, where Casey took out, I believe it was Zenith, and Harkness was down over in the corner. And in order to get the cover, Casey dragged Harkness by the hair over to make the cover. Oh, brilliant. It's getting over how aggressive they are while also putting them in a winning position. I thought it was absolutely excellent. And then we now get to talk about the big invitational tournament that's going on. The invitational tournament's the longest running tournament in Australian professional wrestling. Been going on for a long, long time. And the winner at the end earns themselves an EPW heavyweight title shot. We are at the semi-finals here when we get to Reawakening. So we've got 2 of these matches. The first one is teammates in the Mighty Don't Kneel, Marcus Pitt and Damien Slater coming up against each other. The story here seems to be that the fans want Pitt to go through. Slater is just absolutely despicable. The two have been going at it. Their manager is not there tonight to keep it peaceful between them. They're letting them go. What did you think?
It's the funniest thing because being from Adelaide, Damien Slater was always the golden boy to me. He was always the babiest of baby faces.
Butter wouldn't melt in his mouth.
He was always just like, and I was just like, I don't know how he'd ever go as a heel. I don't know if anyone would buy it here, like him being as a heel. But I suppose that's the same thing that we always said about like Chris Basso. We didn't think that people would buy him as a heel. That's why I got put with him to start with, because we're like he's just too likable. Like it's hard to not like the guy, so we need someone there to bring on that hate. Damien Slater over in WA is absolutely hated, and it's so good to see that side of him, like being able to use that side of him to the fullest extent. I love this match. I thought at the start, because they are teammates in the Untouchables, the teammates in TMDK. So like it started out like just a good, like they were just wrestling each other. And then you could see Slater starting to get more pissed off that he wasn't getting on top. So then he would start firing up. And then that escalation led to the match just lifting another level. Like I put on, actually my note in here is like, I literally have 2 notes for this match. It was like great escalation in intensity at the start. And then I like this match so much, I stopped taking notes.
Yeah, I mean,
so
that's what it comes down to.
I stopped taking notes because I was just watching it. So I love this match. It was so good. The only thing that I will pick on is that, and it's something for me that sort of, don't want to say plagued, but it came up a bit in this card, is that there was no real, at times in some of these matches, escalations to finishes. It was just sort of like they were here, the match finished. Now I don't like it, maybe that's me being overly picky, but like the finish with Slater and Pitt for me felt like it came out of nowhere. It was almost like they got told, you guys have hit your time limit, go home now. I don't know if you thought that at all, or
I get what you're saying, but to me, I liked it because it felt like they were getting closer and closer and closer to finally putting it away, and then they finally put it away. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying, that, you know, when we think of traditionally how a match builds, we get to that closing section and it's, you know, we grow and grow and grow, and then at the end it's big, 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 done. But this felt like it started small and then it got bigger 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 and then it got bigger. And it kept going. Instead of going like this and then spiking, it felt like the whole match was just on that angle and it kept growing until it was done. I really liked it, especially because these guys are pushing themselves as, you know, quality wrestlers, and, you know, knowing that they've got that technical skill, they've got the strength, they've got the agility, and they know each other so well that I don't think you could, for me anyway, I don't know if they could make me believe that one would get the other one with something so big and unexpected that they'd get the win all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved the way in the early match they clearly knew each other. It was that reversals on reversals on reversals. I love that kind of chain wrestling. I love when, especially when it's a tag team going against each other and they know what the other one's going to do because they set up those situations.
Yeah.
Because they know each other so well. This match was absolutely killer. B. Reed here has said, and talking about another match, but I'll slot it in here. Okay, so it's mostly positive. I loved Slater versus Pitt and Gavin versus Don. You can tell that a lot of those guys are the upper echelon of Oz wrestling. He said, overall, I enjoyed the show, but it felt very, here's all our amazing guys, and here's the rest. I understand that criticism because if there's one thing you can say about this card, it's top heavy. We are still going to be talking about Julian Ward, Mikey Nichols, Gavin Mcgavin, Michael Morglioni, Aaron Hawke. We just talked about Marcus Pitt, Damien Slater. And then down the bottom of the card, you've got the 8-man that was a little bit of everyone. So yeah, I definitely understand.
Like I get what they're saying, but I'm also like, that's every card in wrestling. That's every card ever been. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not like, I know that nowadays, like, especially like AEW, start the show usually with someone big like a Punk or a Bryan or something like that to fire up a show. Then it goes.
Yeah, but AEW sort of like have 40 main eventers.
Yeah, but you know what I say? They pack the middle of that show with the guys that aren't thing. Whereas traditionally, a card is supposed to build with. You have these guys that are sort of starting out. Then you have these guys that are a little bit more well-known. Then you get to the point where you hit Rock versus Austin. Do you know what I mean? That's the way. That's the way a card builds. So to not burn a crowd out early.
Absolutely agree. And then, you know, if we're buying into the idea that this is a sport, right? The bigger matches go on later. They've got more money on them. The better you get, the later you go on in the night. Everyone's working towards being in the main event because that's where the best payday is. So that's where the best wrestlers end up.
Yeah. Conor McGregor doesn't open UFC shows.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And if you look at a UFC show, the main event is going to be the two people who are the most entitled to the main event. And then the next match down is going to be the next closest thing, and that's what this show was. And I understand the idea that maybe you want to put, you know, if you've got Gavin Mcgavin and you've got Michael Morglioni, maybe you put them against two younger people and get two good matches out of the younger people rather than one great match with the two of them. But for a big show, for Reawakening 20, I want to see Gavin Mcgavin versus Michael Morglioni.
Yeah. I agree completely. I'm totally on board with that way of thinking, and it's just, I think the way this card was built was perfect, to be honest with you, because it built like you had some of the guys that were bigger names back in, like Bobby Marshall and Dan Moore, in that open match to sort of general that match to show that these are the younger guys coming through. Then you've got the tag match, like you have a look that tag match, Cutthroat and then someone, then Zen Kano, like. Was it 3 years ago? It was like Untouchables and Green Street Hooligans. I think that's their name. I can't remember off the top of my head. But like
something Street Hooligans.
Yes. But that's the level that was. Because but then you'll move into a couple of years and maybe that's how we'll be talking about Zenkano and Cutthroat You know what I mean? It's a circle of life. It's the way it goes.
Before we get tweets, by the way, Street Gang Hooligans. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you. Was the Street Gang? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. So we have a few more matches to talk about in this very top-heavy card. So we'll take a really quick break. Stick with us.
This is the Bro Day pod. Like, this comes from the whole statement where you were like, chicks hate being attracted to guys.
Bro, they do, man. They are.
Chicks hate the fact that they're attracted to guys.
And we make it so easy. Like, just be there. And we're like... like, are you
okay.
Yeah, like, just exist. And then we're like, oi.
I like chicks.
Bro, yeah. Cheeks, bro.
Chicks are so hot.
Chicks are so hot, bro. I swear to God, bro.
So all of this is just chicks just tail ending dudes, man.
All right, let's go. All right.
Oh, sorry, the only disclaimer is the last one, not done.
Okay.
But the tweet is so brutal.
All right.
So
wait, what do you mean? The last one you've
Trust
not...
me.
Oh, okay, you've not done it.
I've
Gotcha.
not done
I understand.
but it's brutal.
Okay. Let's go.
So this is all
go.
just chicks
Yep.
talking about icks that guys do.
Perfect.
Right?
Perfect.
Number one. Holding an umbrella is enough to give me the ick, but if that umbrella turns inside out, they're never seeing me again.
Bro, again, like, what do you want us to do? The structural integrity of the umbrella is not on us. Are you joking me? And holding an umbrella. Are you insane? Holding an umbrella for holding one.
The fact that she was like, holding an umbrella is enough to give me the ick, but if that umbrella turns inside out, they are never seeing me again.
Unbelievable.
It killed me.
Bro, that's savage. That's savage. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's very like macho to be like, nah, bro, just walk.
To be
Other
fair-
than the umbrella, I'm stronger than the rain.
To be fair, I've seen umbrellas turn inside out when girls hold them, and I'm like, huh?
Follow Bro Day No Plan B podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Making Chicken Salad, where we are talking all about EPW Reawakening 20, carrying right on where we left off. There is a triple threat match for the EPW Coastal Championship. This is champion Aaron Hawk up against Taylor King and Kyle Steria. This match was really good. I know, like, shocker at this point in the card, the matches are good. But yeah, like, I think this is where I was starting to get maybe a little bit fatigued at how many good matches were in a row. It felt right to put the triple threat match here, which is right between the two invitational tournament matches, which are like, you know, those intense one-on-one, long build, really wrestling heavy matches. So here, let's put a triple threat where there's going to be, you know, guys in and out of the ring and mixing it up and pulling away pins and all that sort of stuff. I thought that was really good positioning. And I mean, Aaron Hawk's been doing it a while. He knows what he's doing. All three of these guys looked like monsters.
Yeah, it was three big men slapping meat. As
Big meaty men slapping meat.
Taylor King looks in amazing shape. I expected him to win this. I was actually shocked that he didn't. Just the way that the build for the entrance, he had the guy from the Fremantle Dockers play the guitar thing for his entrance and all that sort of stuff. It really seemed like it was set to be his
to
match.
win. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Kyle Steria with a coast to coast, like he doesn't know he's not a cruiserweight.
Oh,
I mean,
ridiculous.
That guy's massive, and the stuff he was doing for his size is just unbelievable. This was another one where, though, and this is my downside to this. This was another one there where the finish came just sort of out of nowhere. There was no real build up to it. It was just very. It seemed like the referee went, "Oh shit, guys, we're hit time. Go home, go home, go home," and so they quickly pulled a roll up. That's my only criticism of that match. I really think that was set for Taylor King to win it. But I suppose that's the way it was engineered. So, like,
And
Aaron Hawk
I wonder-
gets more heat.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I wonder if they're just working at the next level up, and looking at people like us who are going, oh, he's getting the guitarist playing his entrance music. He's looking great in the match. This is his to win, and then Aaron Hawk wins it by roll up, kind of out of nowhere. Like that makes me want to see Taylor King get the Coastal Championship.
Yeah.
He looks like he deserves it. He looks like they're building to him having it, and Aaron Hawk got it out of nowhere. Defended it out of nowhere.
I will say though, it did feel like that mat or that finish took a bit of air out of the building. I don't know if you sort of recognize that, but I know I did. It took just a little bit of air out of the building, and maybe that's because there wasn't a build up for the finish the way that traditionally matches should do. Like they should go up, like escalate to. It's sort of like hit that plateau, and then instead of going that next level to the finish, it just goes. No, it's finished. It's just
we're done now.
Yeah. That was like I said. It's for me. There was a few matches that were like that on the card. This was one of them. Wasn't a bad match, but I'm just saying that
no.
Yeah.
I think this match suffered from being two matches on either side of them were killer, right? You are after two matches that were awesome. You're before two matches that are awesome. It's a hard spot to fill. And, it's there to change the energy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also like they've been told what from the booking team, what they want out of that match. And they probably did exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
That's my only criticism of that is because it was, I don't know if that's just me being overly picky. I like a match where the finish is out of the blue.
If we're not overly picky at this point, it'd just be us running through 7 matches saying, good match, good match, good match.
Yeah.
Like, it was a great show. We have to be picky about something.
Yeah. But that's it. Literally, that's the only thing. There's a few, like I said, a few matches on the card that to me felt like that, where like it felt like they either were told they're running out of time, so they went quickly to the finish, or that's just the way they planned it. I'm not sure which one it is. It's just, for me, that's like, I like that build, finish. Yep. Even if it is a quick roll up.
Out of nowhere finish.
You can do big finishes. You can do like finisher, guy cuts him off, another finisher, guy cuts him off, another goes for the third finisher, roll up. You know what I mean? So it's not a big finish, but it's like you've seen really big things into a roll up.
Yep. Well, let's talk about the other side of the Invitational Tournament. The other semi-final was the Don Michael Morglioni versus Gavin Mcgavin. Gosh, these guys can wrestle. Can't they wrestle?
It was I like the fact that it was a slow start. It was it was almost like they could tell what had happened the match before, that there was a bit of air out of the building. So they're like, all right, we're going to build these guys back up. Let's take this one sort of thing at a time. It was a nice little dive sequence at the start. Both these guys were over, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Which was weird because there was times where like Morglioni sort of went a little heel at the crowd, whereas Gavin was always like the straight, like trying to prove to everyone that he's a face now. He's seen the error of his ways type deal. I like the fact that during the match, Gavin tried to make it a wrestling match where Don was just trying to make it a brawl because that's his groove. That was a nice little contrast in styles, I thought. Again, this was another match to me where it felt like there wasn't an escalation. There was an escalation of intensity going into the finish. There was a lot of stuff that like you could have had as a finish, and they decided not to go with it for one reason or the other. And then the finish just sort of happened. But still, like we've said, it was a great match. Both these guys are. It has been a main event for this show before. So, you know what I mean?
Like,
it's not like
the comment we had earlier about a lot of these guys being the upper echelon of Oz wrestling, like that's that's what it is. Like you were saying before, I liked that Morglioni kind of played the heel a little bit, because if you think about where it sits in the tournament, the next match is going to be Mcgavin versus Marcus Pitt, and Mcgavin's got to be the face in that. So we need to make sure that the crowd's cheering him a lot, even though they were cheering Pitt 2 matches ago. We need him to be the good guy and Pitt to be the bad guy for the next match. So I think that Morglioni playing that little bit of the heel role was really clever. Again, loved that he was physical. Mcgavin was technical. Gavin Mcgavin is, the whole real wrestler gimmick. It works for me. It works for me a lot. I thought this match was absolutely awesome. I thought that the escalation of it was fantastic. Not much more to say on that. It was really good.
Yeah, I must admit I'm highly biased because I like Gavin. I know Gavin as a person, so I'm highly biased. For me, I went a little overly picky on that finish just because I'm trying to take the bias out of it. It's sort of a thing where I had with I was talking to Mitch Ryder yesterday, my boy, and we were because I mentioned him in the podcast I did with Guys People Are Sleeping On as an honorable man in the honorable mention section. And I said to him, purely that was there because I would have put you in the meat of the show, but it just would have looked like I was being biased. So if anything, I'm just harsher on people I like because
I'll put it here. My number one person that people are sleeping on. There you go, Mitch Ryder. There you go.
But that's what it is. If it's someone I like, I genuinely like as a person, I will probably be a harsher judge on wrestling wise because I don't want to seem like I'm being overly biased. Like with Brooks,
yeah, definitely.
I'm very when I watch these matches, I'll pick them apart because I don't want to seem like I'm biased. Like this weekend when we review PWA MCW.
Oh yeah, Brooksy's not getting an inch.
No, unfortunately. And I love Brooksy. But yeah.
No, as someone who's never met Gavin in my life, hell of a match. That guy can work a broom. Absolutely fantastic. And then that'll lead into a change of pace going into the main event. Julian Ward and Mikey Nichols Wasteland Warfare match for the EPW Championship. So pretty much everyone listening to this podcast will be familiar with Mikey Nichols. If you're not familiar with him from EPW, you'll be familiar from when he was in TM61 in NXT.
As Nick Miller.
As Nick Miller, along with Shane Thorne, right? But he's back to being an absolute prick here in EPW. He is undefeated going into this match. He's defeated Julian Ward twice already as a challenger and has decided, you know what, bugger it. I'm going to put this kid out once and for all. Let's make it Wasteland Warfare. So no disqualifications, no countouts, anything goes. And this match was brutal. To highlight a couple of the biggest spots, the one that sticks out in my memory is when one of the guardrails got ripped out from the audience, thrown into the ring, and then Julian Ward got suplexed onto it or back body dropped onto it, and it just bent.
Yeah.
Bent. Thumbtack spots, cricket bat going into a garbage can on someone's head. This was insane. This was almost deathmatch levels of doing some dumb stuff. When there's a fork going into someone's head, it icks me out. But
see, this is the difference. And this is like I'm very much on the table where I do not like death matches. People know that I'm very open about not the fact. This was different because there was a background. There was a story leading into it. So it was very plausible that these guys wanted to tear each other apart. That to me is the difference between a death match for the sake of a death match and a death match because these guys don't like each other, or one of the guys Mikey just wanted to put him out for good because he was sick of him constantly nipping at his heels to challenge him. I'm just going to go through my things quickly, and then
Do it.
we'll talk about the. I said great vignette just leading up to the match. The one thing that EPW did really well is they did a lot of those vignettes before matches to tell the story of how this match came about. It was a good one for Ward. Mikey just looks like a superstar when he came out.
Oh yeah.
Just looks like an absolute superstar. Really quick, hot start, which was good, as it definitely stood out from the rest of the card. Brawling through the crowd, which again was different to anything else that was on the card. Mikey got busted wide open on that shot. It wasn't really busted open, but he got busted open. You can't see this on the podcast, but I'm doing finger air quotes. Really good intensity from
There
Ward.
may have been a small blade involved.
Good intensity from Ward all the way through. The crowd loved Ward. There was Ward chants all through that match. I'll tell you what, for people that don't know this, it's hard to throw a garbage bin accurately, and Mikey just nailed it when he threw that bin at Ward during this match. A stiff toolbox shot that would have been hard way. That cut on Julian Ward was not planned, I don't think. Or if it was planned that he was just going to hit him like that and cut him, because he nailed him with that toolbox. Mikey really carries that mad gimmick so well. This is what I mean when I say that there are guys that have gimmicks, and then when the bell rings, they're wrestler. And there's guys that have gimmicks, and when the bell rings, they're still in gimmick. This is what Mikey is like the whole way through. A great psych out spot with Davis Storm, because half of that crowd or 3/4 of that crowd thought Davis was turning that night.
So I'll for anyone who hasn't watched it yet, Ward was on his knees. Nichols has a kendo stick about to take him in the head. Davis Storm
Slater.
Slater, that's right. Because Slater interfered in the match as well. Slater was there the whole time. Slater had the kendo stick about to lay into Ward. Davis Storm gets in the ring, holds the kendo stick back, and then takes it off him, and then looks like he's about to give it to Nichols. So it's that turn. And sorry, I said Nichols again when I meant Slater. Looks like he's about to give it to Slater, and then turns it back and gives it to Ward, and Ward lays into him. So it was like a fake out on a fake out. Very cool.
And my last note for this match was, now that was a well-built finish. That was the way, that's the way you build a finish. They went through all of this stuff. He kicked out of this, he kicked out of that. So he finally hit him with a big move, pin the crowd. Then that's the reaction you get when you build a finish well. Is you get that big reaction out of the crowd, and that's what they got. And that's all due to the planning of that match, which was brilliant. It was such a good match. For someone who doesn't like hardcore matches a hell of a lot, I loved this match because I just thought it told a story the whole way through. And you can't ask for more than that, especially when it is the main event of the biggest show in the history of that company.
Definitely. And speaking of how the finish built, what I loved about it was that Ward almost hit the finish. He got him up onto the shoulders and then was going for it, and Nichols slipped out. So if you're someone who doesn't know what the finish is, you see him go for it, go, oh, that's what his finish looks like, and then he doesn't get it. So that when he gets it later, it hits with that impact. And in fact, it wasn't just the big finish, because he hit a massive lariat, got the 2 off it, and then off the 2 went straight into the finish. Just an excellent match here. It really did feel like a change of pace from the rest of the card. Like, if there's a criticism we can have of the pacing of the card, Pitt versus Slater and Mcgavin versus Morglioni, like, they're just 2 good singles matches. And I think if this had just been a good singles match, it would have felt samey, but it wasn't. Making it Wasteland Warfare, making it no disqualification really changed the way it went. We got to see Ward, really have the odds against him, because Slater was there for more than half the match, right? Really throwing the balance out. You get Davis Storm equalizing the odds a little bit, but it's only to take out Slater, who was already interfering and had already swung it in Nichols' favor, right? Yeah. We've got, it's not often you see a thumbtack spot early. We saw a thumbtack spot, and then the wrestling kept going. I thought this was a really, really great match.
One thing I did like, and this might be a little bit of inside baseball, when they were brawling through the crowd, you could see in the background a lot of the roster had snuck out into a little like hidey hole to watch that match, which tells me that like even though there are cameras backstage, there's a screen backstage. So just so everyone knows, there's a screen backstage in a lot of places where you can watch the show while like before you wrestle or after you wrestle, you can sit down and watch the rest of the show. Like they could have done that quite easily backstage. They actually wanted to see this thing like in person. They actually wanted to see it live, which tells me that they sold that show, they sold that match so well that even the workers wanted to see it.
Yeah, exactly. We did get a fan comment for this one from John Burke, who said, I didn't mind Nichols versus Ward. I have doubts whether or not Ward is the guy to carry EPW when you have such a stacked top of the card, but time will tell. I think, personally, Ward is pretty much the only choice right now, because we've seen Mikey Nichols with the title. We've seen Gavin Mcgavin. We've seen Morglioni. We've seen Pitt. We've seen Slater. We've seen Storm. And those guys do a great job carrying the title. But if that is going to mean anything, then those guys making the title is the opportunity for the title to make a guy.
Yep.
So if, the EPW title matters because of all of those incredible workers that have held it, have fought for it, have had matches like this one over that belt. And now Ward gets to benefit from that. And I don't think he has to put on a lot of really good matches for it to look like he is the guy.
No, he's incredibly over there.
Oh yeah.
Like just you could tell so much there. And just like I'm not necessarily a fan of those no-sell spots, where the guy hits a big move and he just kicks straight out and stands back up. I bit for this one. Yep. When he did that, I went, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, and that's something that, like, for someone who's watched as much wrestling as I do, and who was as critical at times when I'm watching wrestling, for me to buy like that tells me that they did their job right. So yeah,
there was a kick out at 0 that just sent me.
Yeah, that tells me, like, and there has to be a time where you give a young guy a shot to see what happens. Whether it's to fly or fail, it's like, here you go, mate, here's the ball. Let's see what you can do with it. You've got to do that. You can't always just play it safe, because if you do that, the crowd will get bored of that. They will get, as good as the wrestling is and as good as these characters are, the crowd will get sick of same. Like Mikey couldn't have had that title forever, because the crowd would have eventually got bored of it. And that is wrestling 101. You have to keep building new guys, building new stars. So, and there are plenty of them out there. Like I can see in the next year, like guys like Taylor King, him being a guy that's like up in that echelon next year. That sort of thing, because you can see the young guys that are coming, and it's just a matter of like nurturing them along. And then when the time is right, giving him that ball and saying, here you go. We're going to put you in as good a position to win as we possibly can. You've just got to take it that extra couple of yards. And that's what I think they're doing at the moment with Ward.
I think it's worth mentioning Davis Storm tweeting, and I don't have the tweet on me, but said recently, tweeting about Reawakening 20, the biggest EPW show in 20 years. And he didn't feel that he needed to be there because there is a roster of young people who are able to carry the brand. And I think that, obviously Davis is one of the greats in Australia, and that goes to show, the kind of roster that is over there at EPW, where he could have had a match. He could have had a huge match and it would have been amazing, but he didn't need to.
Yeah, well, that's like because I wasn't really that up on what the card was for the show, and it was when the main event came out, like, oh shit, Davis wasn't even on this.
Yeah,
Like, it wasn't only until then that I sort of, it clicked to me. It's like, oh shit, Davis isn't even on this show. But still having that little cameo was great.
Yeah. It would have felt wrong to have the 20th Reawakening and Davis to not be there at all.
Exactly.
But yeah, overall, I think this show was awesome. Oh, we did have I did read that comment. Yeah. No, I think that overall this show was really, really good. And the fact that it's free on YouTube there is no reason not to go check this one out if you are interested in Aussie wrestling at all. And the one comment I didn't make is that, you know, obviously Mikey Nichols has been over in the US working, but if there isn't international companies watching an event like this and wanting to get those checkbooks out for guys like Slater, guys like Pitt, guys like Mcgavin, they'd have to be crazy. That's just my thinking. Those guys are absolutely world class.
And I believe, and don't take this as wrong. I believe they've got the next show is on January the 8th. It is Hot Summer's Night, and I think Julian Ward is defending against Damien Slater on that show.
Wow.
So that will be a massive.
I imagine it'll also have the final of the Invitational there.
I think so. I haven't really got there's not that much information on it just yet.
Well, if you want to hear information on it, the best way to do that as a listener is to make sure you subscribe to Wrestle Radio Australia, because, hey, in the middle of these shows, we do ads, and there's, you know, some beautiful deep voice behind them. Don't know who that could possibly be, but you'll be able to hear when the events are coming up. You'll be able to hear those promos for those big matches. And on top of that, you get to listen to Wrestle Radio Australia. It's free. You can do it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can do it. Hit that subscribe button. It does help us, puts us in more ears. And please, if you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating, give us a review, give us 5 stars. It does help spread us to more listeners. If you like what we're doing here, if you like these kind of shows where we look at specific Oz wrestling shows, give them a review, talk about what's going on, because, you know, Making Chicken Salad was started with the idea of me and Todd talking about the international wrestling, but really, I know for both of us, our hearts are here in Oz wrestling, and we love talking about it. So please engage with us in these conversations. Hit up at Wrestle Radio AU for Twitter and Instagram. Go on Facebook, Wrestle Radio Australia. Let us know what you're thinking. Give us comments on the shows. Let us know what you want to hear out of these. I believe the current plan is that we'll do our regular Making Chicken Salad coming up, but there's also going to be another one of these episodes about the huge PWA versus MCW show that's coming up. Best of 5. I cannot wait to see that show. I cannot wait to talk about it with you, Todd. Also, if you really like what we're doing and you want to represent it, head on over to Redbubble, search for Wrestle Radio Australia. There's some fantastic merch over there so you can represent what we do on your beautiful body. And also all of the proceeds from that, they don't go to our pocket. They go to some amazing charities for mental health here in Australia, specifically men's mental health charities, Beyond Blue and Gotcha for Life, that do amazing, amazing work. Anything else that you want to plug while we're here, Todd?
Yeah, I'm just confirming the EPW Invitational Tournament Final. Gavin Mcgavin and Marcus Pitt is on Hot Summer's Night and on Saturday, the 8th of January. So get around.
And I believe that'll be available on the EPW Vimeo.
Yes, it will. Oh, I think you never know. They might put it on YouTube. Who knows?
You never know. And if you're in Perth, Gate 1 Theatre, like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, but support, like, I know I said I haven't really watched it, like, their Vimeo, but please do go and support it. I know that, like, just off watching the back of this, I'm probably going to be more likely now to go and watch, like, their Vimeos, because that card sold me on that stuff.
The marketing machine worked, Todd.
It did, mate. It did indeed. And also, like Lachlan said, we've got Sunday, we're going to do a normal episode, and then after that, we're also going to review the MCW PWA Worlds Collide, which will be not long after it's actually aired. So I'm hoping if all the internet gods are willing and able, that will be out on the Monday morning. So once you've watched it, if you have, and please do go on the fight, buy it. It's only $15, I think. So Go on, fork over your hard earned.
For the
Watch the
quality
show.
of wrestlers that are going to be on that. Look, the main event is what? Adam Brooks versus Ricky South. That's for $15 for that to be one of the matches. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So if you do buy it, if you do watch it, go on to your socials, go on to Twitter, hit us up, put your comments about what you thought of the show. We will bring them up here. We will talk about them, just like we're going to talk about the card. I can't actually wait to watch this show. I'm really enjoying doing these sort of reviews of shows because I'm on an eternal mission not to get booked anywhere else in Australia anymore. So I don't really care. I don't really care anymore. No.
He's done traveling.
I'm done traveling now. Yeah, you have to travel first to be done traveling.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that I want to do. I want us to do more of. So maybe we'll do a Right City show. The next, I think, Battle for Supremacy is coming up, which is going to be a massive main event of Havoc and Chris Basso. So that's something that I wouldn't mind us watching and reviewing because I'll burn bridges with all my mates down in Adelaide anyway.
You'll have to fight me not to review that one, Todd. That's going to be a cracker.
I think that's the first time I've been on a Riot City promo in God knows how many years. Probably since I left 6 years ago. But yeah, that's coming up. It's stuff that we want to start doing here a bit more in Riot City on Wrestle Radio Australia, just for the fact that now a lot of these shows are easily accessible for us. They're easy for us to watch. And I think the more we start watching, the more we start reviewing them, the more hopefully people out there will start watching them as well, because they'll hear us talking about it, they'll hear us reviewing it, and they'll go, I need to check that stuff out. So this, again, is just another arm in us trying to promote Australian professional wrestling because it's something we love.
Yeah, I hate to steal your tagline here, Todd, but seriously, everyone, get out there and support local pro wrestling. So with that, capping us off, I've been Lachlan Albert on behalf of Todd Eastman. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.
See you Monday-ish.
See you sometime.